everyone, it's Daz. I hope that you're well. I apologize for the video gaps from time to time. This is my first video of 2021 where I actually am recording it the week that it's going up. The rest of the videos have been pre-recorded because I've been on a hiatus. So, with that being said, I want to talk about some things that have been on my mind because a lot is happening in the world. I'll also get a little personal. Starting off, I'm sure most of you are aware, like the last upload, that food prices are going up. A lot of this is due to the fact that there is a supply chain issue. The supply chain issue has to do with the number of truck drivers that there currently are. A lot of people are not willing to be a truck driver because they do work long, rigorous hours, and there's also been restrictions on the amount of time they can drive during the day. So, because of this, not as many are signing up, even with the bonuses that are being used to entice prospective employees. So there's that issue. And if you haven't watched the video, back in 2019, I did a video on what would happen if, for whatever reason, all truck drivers went on strike and decided that they no longer wanted to drive. The effects would be felt everywhere because hospitals wouldn't have their regular supplies, regular stores wouldn't have items that people would need. It would really impact everything. There also is a drought in California, and a lot of our produce comes from California. It comes from all over the country, but that's affecting the food prices as well. And if you go into a store right now, you can see that a lot of fruit and vegetables prices are rising, as well as the meat prices are rising. Another concern is if we go into another lockdown in the United States, could what happened with farms happen again, where there's a shortage of meat, where animals who could have been used to eat are being put down, because that was a big problem last year. And with that being said, there also is the potential threat of another lockdown, which could impact small business owners. And we know, even though there were the rounds of the EIDL and the PPP loans, that still a lot of small businesses suffered because the longer they're shut down, they can't have business. So there's that issue as well. And then there's a pressure for everyone to get the poke. I'm going to call it the poke, and you can read between the lines of what I'm talking about. And even talk of certain businesses not serving those who have not had the poke. And even almost like this segregation of the poked and the unpoked. So there's that happening as well. And what are the real effects of the poke? Because it hasn't really been tested that long, and what's in the poke, all of these questions that people have as well. Also, there's been a lot of weather events. There have been wildfires in California, and I know this time of year wildfires are common, but the magnitude of them is only getting worse and worse. They're saying it's due to climate change. For one thing, there aren't enough firefighters in the state of California to fight these fires, and they're having to send in federal firefighters, but just like with the truck drivers, not many people want to work for the pay and the risk that they're going to have to put their lives in for fighting these fires. So there is a very big shortage, which means more land burns longer. And it's not just in California. Basically, the whole West is on fire in terms of Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, California, Arizona, New Mexico, all of that dry land out west. Yeah, that land on fire. So there's that happening too. And also, there was some flooding in Phoenix, Arizona that was pretty bad. And not just in the United States, but there was some flooding in Mexico, some flooding in Germany, some flooding in China, in India. So floods are happening all over, and stuff that seems like biblical proportion. So whether we're talking natural disasters, shortage of food, all of this stuff is all kind of like a trickle down effect of one another. It's not good for the economy. And speaking of money, since we're on the topic of it, the renters eviction moratorium was up on the last final day of July, which means that a lot of people are facing a crisis of where do they go now that they don't have a roof over their head because they're not able to pay their rents. So there's also the issue of homelessness, which has been a pre-existing issue in the United States and around the world. A lot of major cities have already so many homeless people, and now we might have to add more to that number because of losing jobs during the big C. And so there's that issue as well of many more facing homelessness because a lot of landlords also are not able to continue to keep these housing units if they themselves aren't getting the funds from their renters. And there were supposed to be some funds that went out to the renters and to the landlords that didn't get dispersed. So there's just a whole mess here with that. So just so much is happening. I know in Los Angeles, at Venice Beach, they had a sweep and they cleared some homeless tents and they criminalized homelessness. And I'm pretty sure more cities in the state of California and around the country are going to follow suit because the homeless problem is a real issue. And a lot of businesses don't want to have people loitering and such, but the question is, how do we solve this? There's also in New York, there's talk of decriminalizing prostitution or at least softer rules toward it happening. So, like, we're having just a lot of shifts right now. And yeah, culturally, things are really changing. So, all of this is happening. And I'd like to know what you guys' thoughts on it. My thoughts are I see this as a reflection of the times. I also would say to stock up on essentials, food, water, canned goods. Make sure you have enough supplies to get you through if for whatever reason there was a major disaster. Because you never know with this weather, with tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding, earthquakes, what could happen. I worked in disaster relief, and the scale of what disasters can do is devastating. And also, just make sure to save money if you can. I know not everyone can because some live paycheck to paycheck, some don't have jobs right now, and that's very tough. But if you have the ability to put aside a little bit here and there to do so, that's very important. Cut out unnecessary buying, spending habits of any snacks or eating out or things you don't really need. Even with clothing, like it's not a crime to wear the same old clothes again and again if you need to save money. Because right now, I would say this is the time to be saving because the cost of living is rising and it's like crazy how they're building all of these new homes, all of these new apartment complexes, but yet the rate of homelessness is growing. It's doesn't make any sense at all. And nothing's getting cheaper despite people being crippled by the pan well, the big C. I don't want to say the words because I don't want to have to get strict on this channel. But also, I just think that with the big C's new friend, Big D in the military alphabet, or I think fraternity and sororities, Greek letter. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So they're saying all these mutations are happening. They're saying that it's mutated now to a more tougher strain that is infecting people, and there's a lot of pressure being put on those who haven't gotten the poke that they too could end up hurt. And I've seen a lot of stories like that, and it's just like the propaganda is crazy. So there's that as well happening. And I do think, unfortunately, there is a risk of another lockdown. I know a lot of businesses are supposed to open, or a lot of people are supposed to go back to the office around Labor Day, and now it looks like that's going to be pushed back at least to late September and probably later if the other friend of this big C that starts with a D becomes more prevalent. So a lot of cities have gone back to re-implementing the mask mandates. So there's that as well. There's just so much happening. It's really the time to be paying attention. Always going to, even if I'm preaching to the choir here, say that it's the time to really know God, be right with Christ, not the time to play around because you just never know with everything going on. But those are my thoughts. And again, I always love to hear your thoughts on these matters. Also, I want to do a live stream in the coming future. When I get ready to do one, at least the day before, I'll make a note letting everyone know to tune in. Last time I went over to another platform. It's sad, like it's not even coming to my mind which platform it was. And I don't think a lot of people tuned in because they knew it was happening over there. And so it would only be me and like a couple of other people. And sometimes a couple of the people, honestly, were people I knew in real life who I had like, yeah, some history with. So that was kind of awkward. So I kind of quit doing it because I felt like it was almost like I was already talking to people I talked to online already. And so I didn't want to, and I couldn't ever figure out how to put those live streams I did on YouTube. I should try to do that because I think that a lot of the things I said in those live streams were important. It's just they never got uploaded to YouTube. Oh, it was MixLR. There you go. For whatever reason, it slipped my mind. So, like many of you, 2020 into 2021 was tough. I was out of work for 5 months. Like, I had a job, but it was all on call, and I didn't get like any projects. So, like, I missed 5 months of getting paid, and that was not fun at all. I was job hunting, and finally, God helped me to land on my feet in January. I also went through a terrible breakup that I mentioned in a video a couple of weeks back, at the end of December, so the end of 2020. And, you know, I don't really like to talk too much about my personal life and my dating life because it really doesn't, it's not very lengthy. I honestly didn't even start dating till I was 25. I'm 26, so you do the math. But, it was about 10 months and, it came to an end. And when you can feel the writing on the wall, but you just don't want to believe it. Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. And even now, when I think back to it, I still feel traumatized. What it did teach me, though, is I need to make sure that I'm not unequally yoked again, that I date with a purpose. And truthfully, I don't even want to date anymore. I would rather just court with another person who believes like I do, skip dating and just get married because that's really the purpose of dating to me. It's not just to let the months and years go by and then just break up and be devastated. To me, that's never made any sense because I don't want to be a girlfriend forever. I don't want to have a boyfriend forever. Like I'm 26, nearly 27 next month. I don't want to go around calling a man when I hit my 30s my boyfriend and being called a girlfriend when I'm clearly a 30-year-old person, even my late 20s. So that's just my views on that. And also, I had this period of time about May where I started feeling really, really sick. I used to be a morning person, and I honestly was pushing my body to the limits because I would stay up late practicing the guitar, learning new chords, and so I'd be up all night playing the guitar and like till midnight. And then I'd get up at like 4 a.m. and think, okay, I need to stay active. So I'd go out running and exercising at 4 in the morning so I could be ready to work at 8 and all of that. And I wasn't really eating breakfast. I was just eating lunch and dinner, sometimes just dinner. I don't know. I was just didn't have the best diet as well. So I'm like, okay, it's probably my poor diet and my pushing my body to the limits and my sleep debt that's making me feel like I'm dead now. Like I got to the point where I would lay in bed till like it was almost time for work to start and I would drag myself out and I'd feel tired all day. And even if I slept 10 hours, I would still feel horrible. I finally went to the doctor. They diagnosed me with a vitamin D deficiency. And they said that, I had to watch my not my blood pressure. My blood pressure was actually super low, but it was my blood sugar that they had to watch. So, yeah, I started taking vitamin D supplements. I recommend it to everyone just because most people's vitamin D levels aren't very high. An optimal vitamin D level should be like a 30, but really a 50 or 80 is more preferred. I had like a 12, which is like right before things start shutting down. That's why I felt dead. But now that I've been taking it, I feel like myself again. I feel like I'm in a new body. I can wake up early again. I'm back to being a morning person. I'm not pushing myself as hard as I did, and I'm still trying to go to bed early. But I've made myself take on healthier eating habits. I also took some probiotics. Drink hot water. That's a very recommended thing. Hot water is very good for you because, yeah, it helps purify your inside. So I've been eating more healthier too, and I've taken on a lot more healthier habits. And maybe it's another reason I'm like, don't eat as you can, don't eat junk. But it's your life. You can choose what you want to do with it. But yeah, that's kind of been how things have been for me. And I'm going to try to get back in the habit of uploading, whether I take those recordings from my other laptop and transfer them over to my Mac, or I just decide to re-record them, or I decide to do new topics. So much is changing, and I want to talk about a lot of it with you guys in videos individually, so I might just do that. We'll see. But if there's a gap, it's probably just because work is being busy. I even took like a 2-month break from all social media. I had my videos already pre-recorded, so like even though it looked like I was uploading, it was more like stuff I had planned back in February. I just stayed off of it. I felt like between everything happening in the world, my own health, my mental health, my spiritual and emotional health, I felt so overwhelmed. And once I stepped back and I just started spending a lot of time with God, I joined a Bible study and I was really studying the Word. I read the Bible through. I started to just feel like a different person. So like I always say, if you ever need to step back from any of it, do, because a lot of this stuff is overwhelming. And as far as like social media goes outside of like YouTube, and like when you're talking like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those platforms, so much of it is smoke and mirrors. It's all advertising and competing, and sometimes that can feel overwhelming. I've gotten better since I've been humbled by everything that's happened to me, but of not really comparing and competing, but sometimes like just the pain I had like left over from my breakup. Like when I broke up, it was engagement season, and that was really painful for me. I know it something's hurting me or not affecting me positively. I just now learn to walk away rather than pretend to be strong and stick it out. And I think you should always do what's best for you, whatever that is, because God knows how much you can take. And I feel like when you know something's bothering you, but you're sticking around, whether it's hanging around friends that you shouldn't be, that you've outgrown, being in a relationship that's the ship has sailed and they're not treating you right, staying online in forums that aren't right for you, watching content creators that you've outgrown, because yes, you can outgrow them. It's better to just cut that tie, cut your losses. That's what I've learned this year, especially. So that's what's been on my mind. I hope that you've enjoyed this little segment, and I look forward to seeing your comments, any questions. We'll try to get a live stream going so we can talk more in depth about things, but I hope you all have a wonderful week. Take care and God bless.